St. Elizabeth was started a little over 43 years ago by Sister John Miller. She was a sister with the most precious blood order. We recently lost her and started the Sister John Scholarship Fund for those who are unable to afford currently our costs. We haven't had a lot of people apply for that scholarship. We do have one person, but it is there. After that, the sisters, when Sister John retired, we were, I guess, became partners with the the Incarnate Word group of sisters out of San Antonio. So in St. Louis, we are partners with the Incarnate Word Foundation as well as the Incarnate Word School. We are all separate entities. We just all happen to be Incarnate Word. And so for the last few years, we've been laser focused on what does that mean for our organization and what does that mean for us as we move forward. We recently had an all staff meeting. Sorry if we inconvenienced anybody on that Friday to really look at the training and needs of the organization. And then on that following Saturday, our leadership team, as well as our board of directors, met on Saturday where we spent a good 6 hours really laser focused on what strategically we want to look like in the future. Some of you might have received surveys. Some of you might have received information asking questions, what your thoughts were, who you wanted us to be. And all of your input was definitely gathered from our staff that Jason, who I'll talk about in a second, sent out, as well as Elizabeth, who reached out to have individual meetings with you. Before I go any further, because these are the folks that really put the sauce in the spaghetti, so to say, and they really make it work. Let me introduce you to Jason Johnston, is our director of marketing. He has done a phenomenal job really getting St. Elizabeth out there in the virtual space, so to say. And then starting next month, he will be hitting the streets and making sure people know about the greatness of St. Elizabeth. Let me also introduce Ebony Tate. She's one of the new kids on the block, literally dancing. Oh, that wasn't funny. It's funny to me. But anyway, she's a new kid on the block. Ebony Tate is our leader out at Florissant. She has come in with a shebang, bang, bang, doing great work out there. We're confident that she is going to get that center to where we need it to be. And then there is Matthew O. I'm just going to say Matthew O. He knows I mess up his name on a regular basis. Matthew O's charge, and he is a new kid on the block as well. Pow, pow, pow. Matthew O comes to us from the Air Force, doing great work. He was in Iowa, and then over at Scott Air Force Base, and now he has blessed us to focus on the quality of care. Something that we're laser focused on this year is quality of care. We've gotten our finances together. We got a good group of HR folks working for us. Our staff are great. And now it's time to make sure that the quality that you want for your person, for your participant, is where it needs to be based on their diagnosis or their needs. So thank you, Matthew. Harambe Jerome Porter comes to us from all over the whole world, and he's not a new kid on the block, but we're going to treat him like one. And Harambe comes to us as our compliance person. For those who do not know, St. Elizabeth is funded several different ways. We have these wonderful private payers who have decided that St. Elizabeth is where they want their participant to be or their person to be, and they are paying a daily fee or a weekly fee or a monthly fee for their participant to participate. We also have people that are covered by veterans, that they have been a veteran or some type of veteran affiliation where they are funded. We also have people that are DMH, which is the Department of Mental Health. That's usually some type of diagnosis that requires a little bit more care. And so those folks are with us too. And then there's Medicaid people who are also as wonderful that are with us. And then Aging Ahead is our funding source with St. Louis. I can't think of the Aging Ahead is aging. I forget. I'm sorry on that one. But Aging Ahead helps people that live in the St. Charles area or other areas of the city to pay a portion of what they pay to be part of St. Elizabeth. And so those are just some of the organizations we're funded for. But because we're funded by so many different agencies, we have to be monitored. So let me use Bill, your location, which I know is St. Louis City. Bill, not only are we reporting to all of those funding sources that at any time can walk in our doors and monitor our books and look at how we're providing services for their participants. In each of the cities, if you don't know, we're in St. Genevieve, we're in Arnold, we're in Florissant, and we are currently in St. Louis City. We recently had to close our St. Charles Center and have been deciding what's next from there as a board of directors. But each of those cities also have health departments. They also have city licensing and several other entities that we have to report to or that can come in and monitor our centers. So on top of the 5, there's potentially 3 to 5 other city agencies according to that location that's also involved. On top of this big old box of stuff, we also have CACFP. CACFP reimburses us per meal per person according to that person's income level. Now, we never turn anyone down for a meal, but there's a form that goes out yearly that gathers your financial or your person's financial information that we ask for, and that's how we regulate how we're reimbursed by the federal agency of CACFP. So those are just some of the financial ways we do what we do. This organization has not had a history of fundraising or friend raising, so to say. So now we're focused on first friend raising. Who are our caregivers? Who are the people that like our centers? Who are the people that want to know more about our centers? How can we get our name and our word out there? And we all know the best way to get that information out is word of mouth. And so that's another reason why we're here today, to kind of talk about these kind of things so that our caregivers know, who like us, who bring their people every day, they know why they like us, that these are kind of the things that we do and we need for our participants. Let me talk about our participants. Okay, that's not great. Let me turn that phone down. So one of the things about our participants, our diagnoses of the participants that we serve varies from, I think we've got over 20 different diagnoses, everything from Parkinson's, Alzheimer, dementia. Then we also have Down syndrome. We have somebody with lupus. Like, there is an array of diagnoses with our participants. And that is why it's imperative that we bring in quality nurses and staff to be there for your participants. Yeah, we play bingo and we know we got to watch Price is Right. And listen, at Cook, if we don't go to the dollar store, there might be an uprising. But we also look at what are the emotional and social needs and the psychological needs of the people that we serve. And that's where Matthew comes in, because I think we've been overarching putting people in a bucket. And I think it's imperative that we get a little bit more into the weeds about the people we serve and the quality of the services that we provide. For instance, if you're a DMH person, we have to do what's called an ISP, an individual, give me the S, guys.
Service plan.
Service plan. Thank you, Ebony. I mess up all acronyms, so that's why they're here. And so instead of just doing it for our DMH folks, we're doing it for all of our folks so that we can look at those 3 areas and how we can provide quality programming for our people in those different areas. So that's another way we're looking at program. We're looking at scheduling. Do we have people that are too long? Do we have people that are too short? How can we provide services? And then one of the other pieces we're looking at is, how do we make sure that the caregivers need what they do? Well, one of those is by Jason's monthly caregiver meeting that we bring in experts. You know, we think we're the experts, but there's some real, even bigger experts out there. And we bring in the head of Parkinson's, we bring in the head of dementia, we bring in the people who are like very versed. They're the doctors in this area to talk about exactly what that diagnosis is with our caregivers. But we want to get a little deeper in the weeds. We want you to call us when you're having issues with your participant, when you need more resources, when you need a respite from your participant. We try to do one night a month, caregiver night out, where you can drop them off on a Friday and from 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock at night, but we didn't get a lot of bite from that. So we're going to look at whether or not that needs to be thought about again in a more comprehensive way of being available for our caregivers. And so our goal is to be a lot more intentional about the way we provide the services that we provide. We all need more money. I need to focus on fundraising. We've got a great billing person in our billing, but we also need to make sure that the needs of our caregivers and the needs of our participants are also met. One of the other things we've got to talk to you guys about in the near future is that our funders are asking us now to make sure that our participants participate in community service. And so that's something that's going to have to go out soon to you guys to see if that's what you're interested in. Our cook folks identified a couple of families, I think 3 families, and they bought toys and bikes and all kind of cool stuff for these families. And then they went and they delivered them and they participated. But is that the extent of our abilities to volunteer? Some folks will never be able to do that, but some of our folks feel a need. When I first started at St. Elizabeth, there was a guy cleaning the tables and moving furniture and all kind of stuff. And I had a little nervous breakdown. Oh my God, they're gonna think we're using our participants. But this man wanted to do this. And when I told him he couldn't, he was ready to leave. And so they want the dignity of being able to engage. They want the dignity of feeling like they're part of the solution as opposed to the problem. And that's how we look at our folks. The other thing that we're focusing on is the training aspect of our staff. So Matthew can create all of these great things and Harambe can hold us accountable when it comes to compliance and make sure that we're on top of our game. But what about the staff training that happens? So what we're going to be doing is training all of our aides in a couple of things. Number one, they're going to get the opportunity to participate, some of them in medication administration. I know there's an acronym. I'm not messing with it, Ebony, but we're going to do that. And so that if for any reason maybe Ebony's working with another family, that they can, under her guidance and under the center director's guidance, administer medication, but they've went through extensive training on that. Another thing that we're also looking at across the board is RBT training, which is registered. Don't tell me, I'm gonna get this one. Registered. Go ahead, Matthew, hit it for me.
Registered behavioral technician.
There you go, back to you. Registered behavior technician. We're gonna train our folks in how to be behaviorists, how not to just deal with the behavior as a small, minute part of who the person is, but let's look right in a bigger picture of how those behaviors are acting out and how we can make those into positive behaviors as opposed to negative behaviors. So internally, we're doing a lot with our staff to focus on training to make sure that our staff is capable of being great caregivers for your participant in your person in our programming. The other thing was like strategic plan and facilities. I know you want to know about those who might be on here who had persons at St. Charles. Unfortunately, the lease was not renewed at St. Charles, and we had to leave in the middle of the night with the smoke and a candle, so say in a joking way, but we had to go. And so we didn't have a place to immediately shift in that same community. But what we're finding now is we were looking in the St. Charles area, we're not finding a lot of solid property to open another one, and we are realizing there is a huge population of adult daycares in that area. Just to kind of give you a statistic though, 60%, over 60% of the adult daycares in the state of Missouri are in St. Louis City, right? And so there's very little growth in the St. Charles area. So we're trying to figure out what that means for us as an organization. Do we move more to the Chesterfield area? Well, they're getting ready to open a big J there. For the Jewish Community Center is opening the adult daycare. So is that the best place for us? Should we go more into Florissant? Florissant is running over of adult daycares as well. So we've looked at places like Olivet. We've also looked at Afton, not Alton, Afton. And then Hazelwood was also potentially an option. So the facilities committee is weighing that as opposed to, is there growth opportunities amongst the centers that we currently have? And they have not come to a conclusion. We are working through this, meeting monthly, talking through this. And the folks that have been so patient with us and so kind to continue with us have been amazing. And so we will continue to try to work through that to find the best option, not just for our participants, but for St. Elizabeth as a whole. So you know what it costs to open a new building. I'm sure you know what property costs are. And so this is really an arduous experience trying to figure out what's next for the organization. And so we're razor focused on there. And then when it goes back to the strategic plan and the board and the staff got together and said, hey, let's just throw this out here on the wall and see what sticks. Let's create this big plan. Now we're in the process of whittling that program down, developing a dashboard to say, this is the date we need it done. This is the person's responsibility to get it done. The board didn't feel that the first run of this had enough of charge for them. They felt it was very what the staff should do. And as a board of directors, which it definitely pleased me, they said, what can we do? There are things that we need to be in this plan to grow this organization. A board of directors develops your policy, and us as a St. Elizabeth employees run the play with that. We're the ones that make that policy work, that programming work, and make the direction that the board of directors have developed. So we're still in the process of editing that, making sure that it's where it needs to be. Then it goes back to the committee, then it goes back to the board, and then it's adopted. And so that's what we're in the process of working through as well. The last thing, because I want to hear from you guys, is that we're doing I'm going to call them block parties, but we've called them community festivals and we've called them all kind of stuff. So Jason and Deja will make a decision on what exactly it's going to be. But at every center this summer, I think the first is in June, we're going to be doing an open house community festival type of thing with health opportunities with Oak Street Health, as well as everything from bounce houses and faces. And we're going to be asking our caregivers to bring their participants back. And we're going to be asking participants to potentially volunteer in these efforts that we're going to do at each center in our effort, or our marketing team's effort, to let folks know that our doors are open all the time and we are here to serve the community that we have. I'm going to open this up for questions right here and see if there are any out here or anyone. All I would ask is if you're someone on the phone, that you kind of just let us know where you're from and what center your participant is as you ask me the question, or someone on our team. Let me also introduce Renisha Britton. Renisha Britton with St. Elizabeth is our executive assistant. Nicholas Morris is coming back on. He is our facilities and transportation director. Tandra, who unfortunately has a double thing happening right now, who is on here. She is our billing person as well. So I welcome all of our visitors. So please, 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 our caregivers, ask us questions. Bill, you look like you're ready. You got a question for me?
No, not really, Regina. I don't want to tell you that you guys do a wonderful job.
Thank you.
And you guys are filling a need that is mostly invisible to most people that aren't facing caregiving. I found this today on Hulu. So our dilemma is catching national attention. It's a new series on ABC called America's Care Crisis.
Gotcha.
And it focuses on teams such as yours that are part of the solution. When my wife started with the St. Elizabeth in 2019, so going on 6 years that she's been with you all, there were 40 million unpaid caregivers in our country.
Wow.
And now there are 48 million.
Wow.
So the number is going to grow. It's projected to reach 60 million in just another couple of years as the boomers age. So you guys, the good news is you guys are part of the solution, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Bill. I appreciate you. Miss Lisa Jacob, you have a question?
Do I have a question? Well, I'm just gonna guess what Bill just said 100-fold. I have a son who attends the Arnold Center.
Yeah.
We started there. I can never remember the year. I know he's been there a long time. I'm gonna say 10 years, 9, 10 years. He turns
Wow.
30 next month. So I know he was around 20 or 21 when we started. And it was a godsend, an absolute godsend, because he was not, his diagnosis is blindness and autism. And he was, as much as everyone through school and programming had worked to try to get him to work maybe in a sheltered workshop or to do anything like that, that just was not a fit for him. He just needed a place to be while my husband and I were working and still trying to have a normal life too. So it has been wonderful. And yeah, I guess one thing I was happy to hear about the RBT. I'm not going to try to repeat that too. I wrote it here, but because Ben does have behaviors, and that's one thing that I have loved about. One of the things I've really loved about Arnold is the continuity. There has been turnover, but it's not like every week or two you walk in and there's somebody new, and he needs that. And I needed that. We needed that. We needed to know those faces. And so they've been so good about working through with some of his behaviors. If you're looking for possible workshops along the line, I am 63 today.
Hey,
Happy birthday.
birthday. Maybe we
Yeah.
said Elizabeth.
So I'm a
Happy
happy
birthday.
63. But
Happy birthday.
thank you. We are definitely thinking about we're reaching into that milestone of aging parents, and where does Ben go from there? He has 2 wonderful sisters, but I've told them since they were little, he's your brother. He's not your sole responsibility. You will have everything to say about what decisions are made, but don't feel like that you have to be the one that steps in. So we're really going to dive into that, I think, in the next year or so, about what are our plans. So any resources.
I was just going to say, Miss Lisa, you might want to think of Arc of St. Louis.
We are
Okay.
we are affiliated with them. I have not really accessed much with them too much. But I do know that they also have that. So I probably need to look into that again.
Okay.
And then yeah, that's I have just little bitty things, are they going to go tomorrow? I'm just kidding.
Listen,
That's
I
valid
just
question.
I've got to go to bed on time tonight just so I can be up. So I get paranoid and I sleep, like I go to bed at 10, and then I wake up at 1, then I wake up at 2, then at 4, the TV's on and the phones are in my hand.
I know.
So
I'm totally
I'm
kidding.
gonna try to
And
go to
she's sending
bed.
us text.
And I'm sending them texts at 4 or 5 in the morning. We're all over underpaid and overworked.
I was a teacher for many years until I retired a couple of years ago. So I know that 5 o'clock in the morning phone call, and I know that, the principal saying, I don't know, I'm driving on the parking lot, I don't know what to tell you.
Well,
Yeah.
sleep by making the decision right now.
There you go.
I cannot tell you, I would love to make that decision,
Yeah,
but as
I know.
much as I and others on my team would like to stay home, like our caregivers sometimes keep them home, some of our caregivers need us. There were only 8 that showed up today at Florissant, but St. Genevieve was open, even though Arnold was closed. I think there are times when there are staffing that want to close centers or to close them early. I traditionally do not like to close centers early to have people have to come pick up their people midday. So traditionally, I leave the center open until later. And if the snow is bad, I send people home later as opposed to earlier. That might mean overtime, but it is what it is. So if we would have gotten a lot of our centers, most of the people are gone between 3 and 4 o'clock. So even if we'd had the snowstorm that was supposed to start at 5 or 6, our folks would have been at least on the road. Our drivers would have been kind of coming back in. The morning is the hard part, you know. We could get to work and it'd be no snow, and in the middle of the day, all the snow happens, and then how do we send our folks home? So it is really something. In some instances, you know, when I didn't have people to this level, I would have been like, if the school's closed, we're closed, right? Because if the bus, but St. Louis City didn't close its schools. And so it really just depends on the perfect storm, no pun intended, kind of pun intended, that I make that decision in early morning. I confer with my operations person because he's the one that's putting the drivers on the road. I confer with our marketing person, even in messaging. We talked about potentially some messaging difference, and even conferring with him this morning about, is this the right message we want to relay to our caregivers? So unfortunately, it is I won't say game time, because I try to make the decision before 5 a.m. because we have staff members that come in as early as 6 a.m. So I try to make that decision by 5 a.m. every morning. And if you don't know, for those of you might not know, tradition, and you let us know, this is a good measuring stick here. The process is I call all of my leaders first. I call all of them or text all of them to say we're closed. And then their responsibility is to contact the people, their subordinates, and let them know. Simultaneously, Jason is contacting Channel 5 to let them know that we're closed. Then he is sending out a major text message to all the caregivers and HR. He sends it to the caregivers, and then he sends an email to all the caregivers, and then HR is responsible also for sending out a text message to all of our staff. That has been our process last year, and somewhat in January. January was just really weird. We were closed a whole week, but then we had a center open. It was all over the place. But that's usually our process to get people out. But I'm watching the national weather channel, the local channels, the area channels according to the community that they're from. I'm visiting school websites, and then I'm praying, because we are a Christian organization in the name of the Lord, that I am praying that I make the best decision for the people that we love on and that we care about and that you guys entrust us with.
Right. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Is there any other questions? I see there is a Mallory. Do you have any questions? Oh, okay. DeFonda, you have any questions? Fantastic. Hi, Mallory.
Hi, I don't really have any questions. I just want to say I'm from St. John, and I appreciate you working with us and everything you're doing for our guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. We weren't able to pick up your person today because of snow, right?
Yeah, we brought them in, but
Oh, you brought them in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, our St. John location is in a very vicarious situation down there with weather, and depending on how they, clear the streets down there. Today, this wonderful person so kindly brought their participant to us. And then we have a group of folks that come from a group home that they actually brought their people in. And luckily, our leadership as well as our aides down there were able to come in and service. So thank you, Mallory, for still trusting us and coming out and supporting us. We appreciate you.
Is that
Definitely.
an option for all the centers? I mean, ever that vans, transportation can't be provided, but if you would like to do drop off, is that?
Well, that's the funny thing. That was part of the messaging that Jason pushed me back on a little bit. It was a situation of, hey, we can be open. Well, let me say this. Before I started, yes, ma'am. That's exactly how it was. They would open up on snow days, and then those caregivers, meaning our staff that could come to work, would come to work on that day. And then those that could drop off their folks would drop off their folks. I thought that it was a little concerning to me that if we're going to say that our caregivers can't, that we can't drive our vans, I don't want to hold our caregivers out there on the streets unsafe as well. So that's why I made the decision with the board of directors to decide when we close, we close.
It's
Now,
all
this morning, I did voice that to Jason, who at this time, we weren't prepared for the right messaging to get out across the system to say this center was open. I also think there was a miscommunication with staff deciding that a certain center would be closed, and it wasn't, we didn't communicate. It didn't happen. And so I think that we'll tighten that up on our end, and Jason and I will go back to the drawing board and try to come up with what that looks like organizationally. I just want to also keep in mind my staff that even though my drivers might not be on the road, we have over 40 employees who also have to get on the road. And so
Right.
I'm just very cautious of making sure they're safe. So when I make that decision in the morning, I'm thinking of them as well as I'm thinking about the caregivers.
right.
And-
And I appreciate that very much. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Miss Mary Ray, do you have a question? Defonda Evans, Miss Defonda, do you have a question? Pat, do you have a question? Hi, Sarah. Sarah, our new director down at Sarah Glass. I'm sure she's not on camera because she's got some wonderful babies. And if we know babies, they don't let us have meetings. But Sarah is one of our newer directors. If this is the Sarah down at St. Genevieve, she's also a new kid on the block, so we won't put her on point too much. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have several. I guess you couldn't hear me.
Yes, ma'am. I can now.
Okay. One of my questions is, what is the staff to participant ratio?
It depends on the participant. Right now, it's 1 to 8, but with our DMH folks, it's 1 to 6.
Okay. And had you ever thought about that respite that you were doing once a month? If your staff were willing to do a Saturday afternoon, because I mean, after they've been there all day on Friday, you might give the caregiver a break, but it might be overwhelming to them to be there for that length of time in the evening. Just a thought question.
I think that's a great ideal, as maybe that's the way we ease into the other, or we don't ease into the other. I think that's a great ideal to open up on a Saturday. That's my retail therapy day. I would love that to have my Saturday day or even Saturday evening available for things. So thank you, Ms. Pat. That's a great idea. I'll talk to my team about that.
And another question has to do with your name. And this was based on a meeting I went to for people with dementia.
Mhm.
And they basically said something I thought was interesting, to call a place where an adult goes to a daycare, they feel is demeaning. And so they talked about adult activity center. Just think of some other creative word to use rather than daycare. So that was a question I had, if that would ever be a consideration. And
I would absolutely love that to be a consideration. Smile, smile. Yeah, I don't think it meant the meaning. You know, we were, if you didn't know, we were the first adult daycare in the state of Missouri. And so that 40 plus years ago, I don't think we had the love for our people like we do now. We're not really as ADA and as conscious then as we are now about naming and situations like that. But I think even taking out, taking out day and just saying adult care center is even different than what we talked about, or adult center. So let me run that up the totem pole. It will take an act of Congress. But that does not mean it can't happen. Everything from our articles to our board, I mean, it will, but I am totally with it. And you gave me the weight to take it back to our board and express that. So thank you for asking that question, because I felt it. I'm sure members on my team have felt it. But we've really not had the weight to take it. And now, thank you, Ms. Reed. You gave me the weight to go, our people said no more. Because that's how I'm going to say it. I'm not going to say it like normal and calm. I'm going to be like, ah. So
Please don't use my name.
I won't use your name. I will not use your name, but we're taping this, so I am gonna like hype it up, like, oh my God, she was so upset. But you're
Thank
right,
you for the
you know,
input.
as an organization that should take into account the dignity of the people we serve. We've been, if you've noticed, some of our vans are getting better. We've been updating some of our vans. We've just ordered another one. Nick has been focused on making sure our vans are running well, smell well, look better. We just got a new bus at Cook. We're hoping the new bus will come in the next couple of months for Florissant. We have changed our branding to even have more compassion as it looks. Even if you look at what it said with the man and woman and the cross that is there, you know, it's about the compassion. It's about the coming together. It's about serving the folks. And we want people to feel good when they come into St. Elizabeth and it not be, oh my God, you know, because you know, we've got some people that come and say, I'm going to work. We got some of our participants and in their mind, they're going to work every day. And so we don't want to take away from that. We want them to feel like there's an ownership and there's a responsibility that they have inside themselves to want to be there. Because listen, if you can't be happy working in St. Elizabeth with these folks we got, I don't know how you do. We've got some great people. And though they might have very minute or very large mental health deficiencies, they are engaged. They know what they want. They know your name. When I walk into Arnold, I hear Regina from 6 or 7 people. It's not like just one person. These folks know who we are. And listen, let me be also clear. We've had a lot of turnover. I'm going to put it out there. Arnold has been a little bit easier to sustain. When you make changes about how you dress, how you treat our participant, how you do the job that you do, I will not accept shorts. I will not accept people that are not going to be great for the people they serve. I will not. I have to tell you that. We had a caregiver, staff member that raised their voice at a participant once, and I just happened to be standing there. There's no way. I was raised by grandma. I took care of my grandmother to the time she left this earth. And so we have a lot of people that work with us that have their own personal stories of people that they've loved on their life, in their life. And the leaders of my organization will not allow our staff to be disrespectful, demeaning, or rude to the people we serve. So I'm sorry sometimes if you see some turnover, but sometimes it's needed because in this field, there are a lot of people that abuse people that don't have the mental capacity that they do. And we will not be known as that as St. Elizabeth. Okay. Is there any more questions? Okay. Well, I have to leave this in prayer because I didn't start in prayer because we are St. Elizabeth Adult Daycare. You're welcome to join us. You're welcome to not. Did our staff want to say anything before we conclude? Jason, All Hearts and Mind, Harambe, Matthew, Ebony, Renisha.
We appreciate you as caregivers. We appreciate you.
Okay, fair. Nick, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, can anybody hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
we can all hear you.
Okay, good. I felt bad. My name was being called. I couldn't get on the camera once I got home on the computer. So I'm back on the phone. And anyways, just wanted to show my face to everyone that joined that don't know me. And we're looking forward to working and servicing your participants and growing the organization.
Fantastic. Father God, thank you for this opportunity to come together. Thank you for the fellowship, the moment, the day. Thank you for the safe travels of the folks that were able to get stationary to have these meetings. And thank you for those that weren't, Father. We ask for traveling mercies. We ask for great days. We ask you to empower us as a staff and as caregivers, taking care of these most wonderful people that need our service. We thank you for this night. We thank you for tomorrow. We thank you for safe roads. In all this we say, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Man, thank you guys. Have
Thank
a
you,
good
Regina.
evening. And thank you, Lisa. Thank Lisa. Thank you, Bill.
Thank
And all
you.
the other caregivers. Pat, thank you, because I'm gonna
Thank
be
you.
mad. I'm gonna be, oh, she said, oh. So thank you, Pat, for suggesting the name change. Sarah, Tandra, Renisha, Ebony, Deja. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Mallory. Welcome to the party. Welcome. You're one of our newest caregivers. Thank you, Lisa, Bill, Jason. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you.